So, what does one make of the big visit by Vladimir Putin, the Russian president, last week to India? Lots of announcements. There seems to be a bit of a rebalancing on the relationship, more focus on trade and economic stuff. And of course, the great powers of the world were watching it. America was certainly paying close attention to it, although no one from the Trump administration has officially reacted to it yet, even as we broadcast this conversation. I'd like to welcome to our studios Michael Kugelman, Senior Fellow with the Atlantic Council. Welcome to CNN News 18. Welcome to our studios. It's nice to see you in flesh and blood. What did you make of the Putin visit? Were you here when he was here, or you arrived just after?
I was here, and some asked me if I was here because of his visit. I was not, but no, it was a significant visit because of the timing and the sense that it's the first time he was here in 4 years, and it was also the first time he was here since the war began in Ukraine. So I think it was especially important for the two sides to essentially send a signal to a particular audience in the West, particularly President Trump, that this relationship is very much still strong. Also, given the fact that just a few weeks before Putin's arrival, the new U.S. sanctions on Russian energy giants went into play, India began reducing some of its oil imports from Russia. So I think for all those reasons, it was important to signal the strength of the partnership, and all the optics were there. In terms of the broader summit, I think it was successful. There were no big-ticket defense deals or anything like that announced. No one really expected that. But I was struck by the joint statement suggesting to me that there's an effort underway now to try to refashion the relationship a bit, focus on some new areas, which I think is a useful thing to do, given that energy partnership might face some challenges given the U.S. sanctions on Russia. Defense cooperation could be tied down a bit by Russia's war in Ukraine. So all in all, I think it was very much a success.
How do you think this was read in Washington? How was this viewed in Washington, particularly within the administration?
So, I mean, one could say that there should be a reason for the administration to be happy about it, because this is a moment when the administration is really trying to get Putin's buy-in for a peace process. And Prime Minister Modi and President Trump feel the same way about the war. It should end. And clearly the administration knew that when Prime Minister Modi met with President Putin, that among the things they talked about was the war. And Prime Minister Modi said that we have to focus on ending the war. So that would have been a useful message to deliver. But I do think that in all likelihood, the reaction in Washington, in the White House, was negative, in the sense that they would see this as another case of India essentially legitimizing, bolstering Putin, and essentially signaling a desire to continue to work with Russia at a moment when India is facing a lot of pressure from the U.S. government to do the very opposite.
Let's talk about the current pressures in the India-U.S. relationship. What's your best understanding of where the trade talks are? Where is it stalled, and can we expect a trade deal soon?
I mean, it's been many weeks that we've been hearing U.S. officials saying a deal is close, but should that not be concerning, right? For so many weeks we've been hearing one's close. Why hasn't there been one yet? And I do think the good news is that the Russia components have been dealt with. I think the fact that India has cut some of its oil imports from Russia, and the fact that it signed a new gas deal with the U.S. recently, suggests that the concessions that the Trump administration was looking for it to make in the trade talks related to Russia have been done with. So you could check that box off. But I think it comes down to what else the administration might be looking for from India, and of course what else the Indian side might be looking for from the U.S. Obviously this is a give and take. Both sides are very strong, tough negotiators. I think that's very clear. So I'd like to think that there will be a deal eventually, but it comes down to, will each side be willing, and especially the Indian side, be willing to give in to some demands that could accrue some political risk. I mean, we don't know exactly what those demands are, but that's important to consider.
There's also, trade has obviously become the point of friction between India and the United States, but even on the broader relationship, and I want to sort of move your attention to the NSS paper that came out last week, the National Security Strategy document, where India was referred to, I think, 3 or 4 times, but it was referred to as a commercial partner, not as a strategic partner. Is there an overall sort of reassessment of India in this administration? Because the logic of the last 20, 25 years, 3 or 4 administrations, has been that India is America's natural ally. It is the strategic sort of pivot to try and manage the rise of China. Do you think that's changed?
It's too early to say, though I'd say several things on this front. One is that the U.S. approach to India right now is largely seen through the lens of trade. I mean, that's very clear. The External Affairs Minister here made that comment recently. But I think one has to distinguish between the White House's approach to India and the rest of the U.S. government's approach to India. I'd argue the White House absolutely is all very commercial, transactional, wants the focus to be on trade, push India on the trade issue. But then if you go to the State Department and DOD and other agencies, I really think that the view toward India is the same that it's been in Washington for the last decade plus. But at least at this point, the White House is driving U.S. policy toward India, which means that those further afield in the U.S. government that would like to push for maintaining the strategic partnership, for now at least, they've been marginalized. Now, let's see what happens in the next few weeks. As you know, there was an incoming U.S. ambassador to India who is very close to the president. I think that's good for India and good for U.S.-India relations, because if he sees the opportunity to really take the steps necessary to strengthen this relationship, the president is not going to stand in the way. We also have a new Assistant Secretary for South Asia at the State Department, Paul Kapoor, who has always taken a very, what I would describe as a supportive position for U.S.-India partnership. Both of these men might have a bit of a similar portfolio, because the incoming ambassador is also going to be a South Asia envoy, but they are both strong proponents of U.S.-India partnership. And these will probably be the two officials outside of the White House who will have the biggest opportunity to shape policy. And the fact that they really want this relationship to work, that's a good thing for the partnership.
And overall, on the Indo-Pacific, on the Quad, Trump was supposed to be here in India, around this time for the Quad summit. We don't know if one is going to happen anytime in the next few months. The overall sense seems to be that Trump is keen to cut a deal with Xi Jinping. He's announced that he's going to Beijing in April. And he's basically saying, I don't want to be fighting these, wars in the South China Sea and in Taiwan and so on and so forth. You think that rebalancing is also happening?
I mean, this is one of the big questions, that it will have so much impact on U.S. policy in the Indo-Pacific, policy toward India for that matter. What will this administration do on China? And you're right, we don't know. We got some hints in the new national security strategy, but we don't know for sure. I really think that the U.S. will maintain its competition with China in the economic realm. But when it comes to broader strategic competition, I don't know. And you hit on an important point. I mean, Trump does not want to get dragged into a conflict involving China, and that to him gives him reason to look for some sort of understanding. And also he respects China's global economic clout. He would not want to take a hard line toward China, which could provoke China to stage retaliations against the U.S. that could damage U.S. economic interests. Those are the two reasons why I think Trump would want to sort of treat China with kid gloves. And again, this is a very different approach to his first term. But we'll see, because obviously the way this plays out, we'll have implications for a U.S.-India relationship that for so many years has identified the China factor as the strategic glue that's bound the relationship together.
And a final word, I mean, it's your pet subject on Pakistan. They seem to have a good time sort of getting into the good books of the Trump administration with the president himself directly. We saw the meeting that happened a few months ago. But they seem to be having some trouble on the border with Afghanistan. Again, I don't think the Imran Khan question has been fully settled yet. And now Asim Munir is, he's the lord and master of everything. I mean, he's chief of defense forces, he's army chief, he's everything. So how do you see the US-Pakistan equation having evolved in the last 6 months?
Well, again, it's very commercially focused. The Pakistanis have done something they've often done, and that is make a successful pitch to U.S. officials to work with them or want to work with them. Pitching themselves as a useful partner to help capitalize on critical minerals opportunities, crypto opportunities. These are things that the administration wants to capitalize on globally, not just in Pakistan. I don't see how that could actually work. You know where the critical minerals are located. Baluchistan, KPK, these are dangerous areas. Crypto is still a work in progress in Pakistan. But I think that the Pakistanis have been able to pitch themselves to an administration that at the end of the day does not have Pakistan expertise inside the White House. So that means that the context about Pakistan, its actions, its role in the war in Afghanistan, the fact that American troops have been killed by Pakistan-sponsored militants, all of this, either they don't know or they don't care. They just want to focus on the here and now, the tactical, transactional side, and that includes commercial opportunities. Also, counterterrorism. I know this wouldn't be received well here, but I think this administration, including the president, were very impressed by Pakistan's willingness to work with the U.S. some months back to apprehend that Islamic State Khorasan terrorist involved in the Abbey Gate attack in Kabul. I think that changed Trump's mind a lot. And that was actually, I think, the first indication that the direction of the relationship was going to change.
All right, Michael Kugelman, we'll leave it at that. Thank you very much for joining us here at CNN News 18. Thank you.
Thank you.